I I didn't really want to go here, but I can't see it any other way on what I'm about to say. And Mr. Marcus, this is directed at what's happening. This is not directed to you. But there was some comments that was made years ago at council meeting. And one of the comments that was made that struck me then when we were trying to get rid of the cars was environmental racism. And at this point, you know, when let's just say CSX knows the concerns of the community, but yet we're back at the same type of issue, not the same exact issue, but the same type of issue. So if we're back at that issue and everybody knows the concerns, it's like, you know, having everybody come out and do everything that everybody did 8 years ago, or whatever it was, or 10 years ago, and start this all over. It doesn't make sense. And I can't see it any other way because, okay, Fredericksburg is small, and the rail area that you guys cover that comes through Fredericksburg is a small area. It's a small area. And just to stand at one side, and I understand Translow's gone now. I get that. Pretty much that just shows, you know, based on the business, there's, I think, $1.3 million, 900 plus 400 $1,000 that you know, that was spent to protect the community. That's kind of wasted in a sense where it's wasted if we're not using it. But to stand on the site and look at the cars, and then I'm literally like, I wish we were in the same room, but you're looking right here and the cars are right here. And when you turn your head right here, the additional track is there. I mean, it's that close. And you're talking about when it was 27 cars, it was 2 blocks. These are not downtown blocks. These are long blocks. 2 blocks from Railroad Avenue all the way down to Tyler Street. So if you want to use it as a reference point, when you go to the industrial park, if you go to the industrial park and you go to the city shop and you go all the way to where that road ends, that's the distance. That's the exact distance. Because at the city shop, you have Summer Street, Tyler Street, all of that over there. So if you go to that I just want to give council a reference point of how long that area is. If you go from where the city shop is, right at that corner by the dump, and you go all the way down the length of the distance that the cars are there in front of houses. So I can't see it any other way at this moment. I'm sorry, I can't. And to see the people's faces, and I stayed out there probably for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes on Friday, with folks talking to me and telling me, these are folks that talk to me all the time, but just to see their frustration and all, that's our job to take all of that in. I know it, but it's hard, you know, to watch it. And I also think about, you know, years ago, and it may sound like I'm off track, but I have a point to it. I think about years ago, if council remembers, we had a missing person that was found dead near the railroad tracks by Summer Street, by the Blue and Gray Parkway, in that area. Okay, so this is also an area where you'll see cars at. So 6 months after that, if everyone remembers, there was another body that was found dead. There was a scenario where, you know, they were missing folks and they were found dead on the railroad tracks. So in the same sense, what happens if that person, let's just say people walk the tracks, everybody knows that. What happens to the guy that doesn't know that's smoking a cigarette? You know, what happens then? And I'm talking about, you know, 2 people that died on the same tracks within an X amount of time period right here in our city. So if you look at that, if you know, a lot of people don't get it, but that Blue and Gray Parkway is what we're talking about. The Blue and Gray Parkway is exactly what we're talking about. That's Railroad Avenue in Mayfield. You know, people who don't know the area don't know it, but that's it. So, you know, just think about that. If there's somebody walking the tracks and he's smoking a cigarette, I think about it. I don't know how flammable it is, but I mean, the fact that we know that 2 people died on those tracks, I'm just on the wondering side. What if they were smoking a cigarette? So I'll leave it at that. That's all I have. Mayor Greenlaw, I'll let you take it over. Mr. Baroody, if you could just tell everyone what we're working on next, and thank y'all. And hey, I mean, this is the best way I can get it out.
Well, thank you.
All right, Mr. Baroody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Vice Mayor Frye's question about next steps, well, I just simply want to remind the community that we continue daily inspections by the fire marshal of the site. That's for two purposes. One, to ensure that they don't see anything visibly unsafe in the tracks. And secondly, and maybe just as importantly, they're tracking numbers of tanker cars. So they're taking actual physical serial numbers off each tanker car and logging that. And I'm getting that weekly for folks. I did share the most recent log with council over the weekend. That's to give us a sense of, again, the numbers. And they also, as has been alluded to by Mr. Marcus, they have the ability, the fire marshal, to, with that serial number, check the contents, whether it's full, whether it's empty, and what it contains. So that resource is helpful. So we do, again, to reinforce that, we do understand what's happening there at this point. And we'll keep that daily activity for the near time future, as long as we need to keep it to ensure safety and proper logging of tanker cars. Again, I think that's important to tell our story moving forward. Secondly, I do appreciate Mr. Marcus and his agreement to not only be here tonight, but to have a follow-on meeting with the community or community representatives. So I'll work with Vice Mayor Frye to schedule that in the near term. I do think it's important that we get face-to-face in the neighborhood with community representatives. And again, Mr. Marcus has agreed to that. Lastly, I have reached out, did so this weekend, to the owner of the Milford Terminal Company. Mr. Doug Begland is Executive Vice President. He is in charge of their Colorado office. I did reach out to them. I shared with that office a copy of the council's resolution and several newspaper articles, and not yet received a call. I will certainly stay on top of that. NGL Supply Company Limited, again, I understand owns the Milford Terminal Company. I believe that we ought to be fully focused and maybe a dual approach, one with CSX, and I think just as equally, we ought to be paying attention to NGL. They have a 13-acre parcel in Caroline County. You can visualize it from Caroline County's GIS resource. It is a open parcel that looks to me like it may have some capacity for additional rail storage, and I certainly want to pursue that with the company representatives, and I will do so as soon as they return my call. But I'll still go after them. If I don't hear from them, I'll certainly go after additional offices and contacts with, again, NGL. They are surrounded by farmland, so it is a perfect place for, I think, a propane facility, and I think they ought to take full advantage of that surrounding and, again, accommodate their business interests on site and not in our city. So we'll be pushing that as well. So those are next steps. Continued review by Fire Marshal Daly, follow-on meeting with the community, and continued pursuit of the corporate owner of these propane tankers. Happy to take any other advice from council about next steps.
Tim, that I did. I think when we spoke on the phone, I mentioned this, but that we heard through NGL that they are intending to get back to you. So I'm kind of surprised they haven't yet, but it should be shortly.
Great, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I think we can team up with CSX to accomplish that. It sounds very promising, and I appreciate it.